Hello, friends. Boy, I just never get used to hating talking into a microphone. There's probably people out there who will never get used to hating listening to me talk into a microphone, but here you are anyway. Why you do this to yourselves, I don't know. I don't really have that much of an agenda, but I have been doing a lot of thinking, and I thought I would just kind of vomit some stuff out. I just got back from BAHACON, the Blue Water Atheists, Humanist, Agnostics Conference in Sarnia, Ontario. Great breath of fresh air. Met a lot of wonderful people, some of whom are new subscribers. So welcome. For whatever reason, you have taken it upon yourself to tune in here. So I appreciate that. I am not a professional at this, but it's the voice I have. It's one way for me to communicate and try to help and do good in the world. So anyway, that conference really, really interesting and got me thinking about a lot of things. And it's not like I need to add anything else to my plate to do. But I do think I'm going to do a little bit of reorganization, and I'm thinking about how better to communicate. And I saw some great examples of how people are communicating. And so I'm trying to, I guess, maybe not take some of that to heart, but be aware that there are multiple ways to be successful at getting a message across. So super useful. One of the first things I decided to do is I took all the monetization off all of my videos because it's kind of silly. They don't get that many views. So I've made less than $200 on YouTube. Now that I know kind of how the model works and how much my videos will make, it's not really worth it for the hassle of worrying about whether they're suitable for ads or copyright or any of that kind of stuff. So there are costs to running a channel. I had to buy a microphone, some lights, equipment, that sort of thing. And obviously the biggest cost is time that you could be spending doing something else, the opportunity cost. But I'm never anticipating ever being able to kind of make a significant amount of money doing this that I couldn't make much easier doing something else. If I had spent all the hours making sculpture and working on that part of my creativity, if I'd taken all the time on YouTube and done that, I would be way ahead at this point, because that's the one thing that I've done that people want to shell out money for, which is nice, and I'll take it. But this is something different. But I realized going to that conference that, it helped remind me that what I am trying to communicate about is important, and that I think I do a decent job at it, but I could do better. There might be other ways to get the message out. So I'm scheming. Other stuff that is coming. So I do have a big art project that's going to keep me busy for a lot of the coming year and take up a lot of oxygen, of which, in our family, there's not a whole heck of a lot to begin with. I'm excited about it, but it's nothing that I probably should be talking about yet. Professionally, I've got interesting things going on, but I don't feel like most of the people that watch these videos or come to this channel really give a crap about that for the most part. It's funny because the alternative people always say, well, if you would just talk about real archaeology, we would like it. We would listen. We wouldn't be so angry. But when I do talk about real archaeology, I can practically hear people falling asleep. From the media that you guys, when I'm talking about you guys, I'm talking about the people who want the excitement of the lost civilization, the discovery. The things that you consume have led you to believe that archaeology should always be exciting in the same way as watching Indiana Jones is exciting, or doing donuts in the parking lot at night at the Walmart. Maybe that's exciting. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm going to get to work. At the end of the day, getting the human past right is important. A lot of you don't like me for that. I guess it's the Trump era, so you can just send a clear message to those of you who don't like me for that. There you go. See, but then I should be more gentle about things. I should try to be soothing, and I should have infinite patience and explain to you why, for the 100th time, the Yonaguni Monument is not evidence of an ancient civilization. I should explain to you for the 100th time, giants don't exist. And it's funny because at the conference, once people found out, the topic that I was talking about, which was the title was A World That Wasn't Pseudo-Archaeology at the Intersection of Race and Religion. they'd be like, oh, well, what do you think of this? And I think they were surprised, and actually I was surprised by how many of those what do you think of this is I had a pretty substantial connection to. One guy said, oh, well, what about, I heard that there was something, they found something in Lake Huron with the caribou hunting. And I said, listen, mister, you're sitting at the table with a guy who wrote, as far as I know, the only rebuttal to that, which is not something I've ever talked about on this channel. Maybe I will someday. And somebody else wanted to know about Oak Island. Well, what do you think about Oak Island? Have you ever heard about Oak Island? And, I try to give him the 5-minute version of the Roman sword and Hutton Pulitzer and yada, yada, yada. Somebody said, well, I have a question about the Nephilim. Don't we all have questions about the Nephilim? There was two people forwarded to me the article about some congressman. I forget which state he's from. Okay, here we go. They were real. MAGA rep says giants roamed Earth and hints at plans to expose bones. Republic Representative Eric Burlison believes giant humans walked the Earth and the Smithsonian is hiding evidence. Weirdos like this actually serve in our government. Well, serve, you gotta watch your verb there. Burlison told Stein he was scheduled to be at NephCon 2025, a conference focused on fringe topics including the biblical Nephilim, figures in Genesis that some interpret as the giant offspring of angels and human women.
Hey guys, I'm excited to announce that I will be hosting a conference in my hometown of Bozeman, Montana, from the 27th through the 28th of June. NephCon 2025 will feature captivating presentations by myself and other engaging speakers addressing an array of fascinating topics related to Nephilim, UFOs, transhumanism, alternative history, and Bible prophecy. Come join me for a conference experience like no other. NephCon 2025, what began on Hermon, ends at Armageddon.
Is NephCon like DEF CON? What NephCon are we at? Are we at NephCon 1 yet? I sure hope not. Maybe we're at maybe NephCon 3. I'm not sure. I don't even know what events or conditions would trigger a move up the NephCon scale. He credited Tim Alberino's podcast with sending him far down the rabbit hole, eventually reaching claims that the Smithsonian Institution is hiding evidence, the bones of past giants that lived on Earth. Burlison suggested that as a member of the Oversight Committee, he could investigate the Smithsonian and suggested first developing a strategy with Stein. We don't need a strategy. Just send big balls in. Wasn't that the purpose of Marzulli's petition? On the morning they were preparing to relieve me of my gallbladder, I fastened on an Ancient Aliens marathon. My rep here, Mary Miller, in Central Illinois, is bad. She's known as a ghost. You don't even know what she's doing. She doesn't show up. At least this guy's doing something, I guess. At least he's looking for Nephilim. What's your strategy on the Nephilim, Mary? Mary? Anyway. Good Lord. NephCon. Hey, Rep. They call me crazy, but I think there was giants. I believe in the Nephilim. I believe that was real, Rep. And they're going to clip this in and call you crazy. Were giants ever real in your opinion? I hope this doesn't get you canceled. It's going to get you laughed at. It's not going to get you canceled. Burlison replied, no, I'm going to say I do believe that they were real. I do believe. I do. He does. He went deep down the conspiracy rabbit hole and hinted at using his oversight power to look for giant bones hidden in the Smithsonian. You go, dude. You go. We got to figure out a strategy behind that, he said. That's important. Anyway, more from me later. Bye-bye, friends.